Hey, Chris. Happy.
Franco, how are you today on this Monday?
I'm doing good. I just met a guy. His last name was Baldwin, and I thought, what a cool name. His name is the exact opposite of hair loss.
That's, a bold joke, Anthony, to start off on a Monday. Really? Just going to the well.
I thought I would hit you because Stephanie decided to hand this one to you. I thought I'd hit you with a joke that would resonate for you.
It's funny because we are going to be joined today by Hark, Herold. And Hark, Herold and I, we sometimes go to hardware stores together. I don't know if you ever knew that, but we love going to hardware stores. But there's this one hardware store that we go to, which is really funny because the pricing they use is strange. They figure out the price of hammers by the pound.
That was too much cognitive load to figure that one out.
Oh, Anthony, why do 73% of teams fail to execute the founder vision? Why, Anthony? Why do they do that? Shocking stat. 89% of founders say that their team doesn't understand their company priorities. Zapier's Wade Foster discovered his team was building integrations nobody requested, forcing a complete product strategy reset today. Anthony, it is a special episode. We are talking about EOS. We are talking about the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and we are joined by our longtime friend, very, very old friend, if you know what I mean, Anthony, because he's old, really, is what that comes down to.
When you have to explain the joke, Chris, it doesn't work.
Right. Mr. Hark, Herold, certified EOS implementer, 20 plus years. It says here Army experience, but I don't think that's true.
That is not true.
He's already got that glare going at me. 20 plus years of Air Force experience. He's got experience with design thinking. He's got experience with leadership. He has experience, Anthony, with pumping the keg
at a Denver Founders. Yes.
For I don't know. That was like a couple of years of your life, Hark,
That is what retired colonels do. That is exactly. A good use of time.
Right after you were a colonel, you then went and you're like, hey, what can I do to help? I'm like, I don't know. You could be the beer guy. That being said, you were the most popular person at all our Denver Founders.
I was. It enabled me to get to see everybody at Denver Founders Network and spread the word about veteran resources for veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs.
That is incredibly true. And so just as way of background and part of your bio as well, you worked with an incredible national nonprofit called Bunker Labs. You actually were one of the founders, at least according to our other friend, Mr. Chris Martinez, of Veterans in Residence, which is a system that helped veteran entrepreneurs, veteran and family members of veterans entrepreneurs, incredible organization. And then you took a big leap. You changed and you joined EOS actually as an implementer. What is an implementer, Hark? What is this thing? What is EOS? Help us.
Yeah, well, first off, gentlemen, and I use that term very loosely. Thank you.
Very loosely, I know. Yeah.
And it's called seasoned, not old. Seasoned.
I appreciate that. Well, are you're well seasoned, Hark?
Yes,
you're a well seasoned person.
Yeah. So EOS, which I know you guys have talked about previously on the show, but an implementer is someone who helps the leadership team of an organization to implement, hence the name, the entrepreneurial operating system within their organization. So my job is to work with the leadership team to help them establish and input the processes and systems into place.
I like it. And you've been doing this now. What has it been? About 3 years, 4 years, something like that?
Coming up on 3 years. Coming up on 3
years. And I think, Anthony, one of the things that we were talking about before is that I'm a super fan of EOS. You're a pretty big fan of EOS too. Like, tell me your understanding of what EOS is, Anthony.
Well, you have an EOS expert on, and you're going to have me tell you.
We're just setting you up. We're just setting you up to make fun of you. Is really.
All right, I'll do my. So, you know how most entrepreneurs leave their jobs to become entrepreneurs so they don't have to follow a process because they're tired of the bureaucracy of processes within organizations. Well, the authors of Traction thought it would be a great idea to develop a process for those people. And actually they did a pretty good job. It's lightweight enough to where startups can use it, but also robust enough to where if you mature in a company, it helps you align your goals, your operational goals with what you're actually doing on the ground. How'd I do?
How do you do, Hark?
Not
like
bad.
Okay. Scale of F
every
F plus, like maybe F plus.
So every organization has an operating system. It's simply the way you operate, right? You have a way you do things, a way you align, a way that you determine what your vision is, where you want to go, why you started this organization, what you're trying to do with it, the impact you're trying to make. And you have a way to try to align everybody on that. You have a way that you execute against that vision. You have systems and processes. It's just the way you do things. That's what a business operating system is. And so what Gino did with Traction is he compiled these different tools into a thoughtful, conscious system, because most people are just operating. They don't really think about it. They just, this is just the way we do things. And so EOS is a reinforcing system of tools and disciplines to help the organization get aligned on their vision, where they're going and how they're going to get there, put systems and processes in place to execute and gain traction against that vision, and then work together to become a more functioning, cohesive team. And so it's a group of tools and disciplines to help an organization do that in a thoughtful way, as opposed to an ad hoc, I don't know, let's just try this.
Anthony, I think one of the biggest things that we experience is, and I think I think this is the other moment of saying, Hark, you were instrumental in a previous company of mine as my EOS implementer. And so not only we've been friends for years, you were also the person that brought this system into my company. But I think one of the things that I felt, Anthony, is that I didn't want something as a founder that was going to be too controlling for me. And I know that was probably even a fear that I wouldn't have said out loud, because to your point, Hark, we all have operating systems. But in your experience, Anthony, with EOS or any of these additional systems, talk to me about you as a founder, about how sometimes it can be a little bit harder to say, I'm going to adopt a system that may feel a little bit restrictive at first.
Yeah. So once I read the book, I was like, okay, this is the right system for somebody like me. Chris, it's just the right system for somebody like us, right? So the kind of what I took out of Traction, was that it wasn't so dogmatic that the process became the product. And so I really appreciated the fact that it really does its very best in its tools and the way it runs, of just getting out of the way of the business. It's just a layer you throw on something to help you understand how to accomplish your goals. It's not much heavier than that. Now there's a lot of like depth into how you apply it, but it's not like BPM, which is extremely heavy. It's not Six Sigma, where you need different belts in order to graduate into different ways of operating. It's not Cyanetics. It's a lot. it's a lot more designed for companies that just want to execute.
I mean, Hark, you experienced this not only like you came to EOS through Bunker Labs, I think, right? Were you familiar with it before Bunker?
No, Bunker. So the organization Bunker Labs that I was with was running on EOS, and that was my introduction to the system.
And so you ended up as the integrator, which is, we'll talk about those roles in a second, but how did you feel early on when you were introduced to this idea of an operating system? And did you feel like it was too rigorous or not rigorous enough?
No, so I equate it. So 28 years in the Air Force, commanded units, the organizations that excelled, whether it was a military unit in a combat environment or a civilian company, right? When I was working with Bunker Lab, working with companies, the ones that excelled had a great vision or mission. They had the right people in the organization in the right seats, aligned on that vision or mission, and they had a system in place to ensure execution with discipline and accountability against that vision. And really, Chris, one of the things you said, was concern over, being constrained, right? Or it's too much, and that systems, entrepreneurs don't like systems. Actually, because they view them as constricting. Systems are actually freeing. Right, Chris, when I was working with you, one of the things that you said, which resonated well, which was great self-realization. So I don't know who told you to say it, but it was
He probably whispered in my ear, or Anthony probably wrote it down on a sticky note.
His wife, his wife.
It was, hey, listen, the organization got to here because of me, and the organization can't get any farther because of me. Like, I can take it to a certain level, but if I want to get to that next level, if I want to achieve that greater vision, I need to have systems and processes in place. And I was working with a visionary, out of a space company down in Colorado Springs, and we ended up doing a day on process, and he was like, just grab a needle and stick it in my eye right now, please. Because a visionary, somebody who's big picture, was like, process sucks. And by the end of the day, he was excited because he realized all this, he had a process. He had a way of doing things, but it was all in his head. And so nobody else could do it. So he always had to do it. And so by implementing a system, he was able to replicate those things that he could then hand off and let somebody else do to enable the company to grow.
I think that in my experience, when you came in to help us, I was really, really burnt out and
way burnt out.
I was not healthy, and it was getting really bad, and it was very, very difficult. And Anthony, I feel like that's the time when we as founders, it's the time when we really need a system in place, because for me, we were right at that moment where I was like, I don't know that I can continue in the same pace and trajectory without having the ability to get some of the stuff off my plate.
So how long had you known Hark when before you got to that spot? Because I don't agree that you need to wait until you're burned out to implement this. Like, how about do it before you get burnt out?
No, I think, it's a great point. I think that, Hark was just coming on board as an EOS implementer. I was familiar with EOS before, but it wasn't until, the deep level of trust that I had with Hark that I was like, absolutely, let's do this. I think that in retrospect, I should have absolutely invested in it a year or two before that. I think that it could have saved me a lot of that pain. But I think the point that I was making, Anthony, is that oftentimes as founders, we don't want to change until we get to a place where we can't continue doing all the things, which is what founders do through I think a long part of the early stage of the company.
It's the realization, right? Everybody's heard it, but it's internalizing what got you here won't get you there, right? Everybody's heard that. Yeah. But when you actually realize it, like, oh yeah, it's not just a saying. It actually is true that what I was able to do to get the company here is not, I can't just do more of that. Do you have another 60 hours in your week to do this? I don't think so.
Yeah. And I mean, the hardest realization for me, Hark, was that moment when I realized that I was the gas in the car, but I was also the brake. Without me actually empowering other people, I couldn't move the company forward. All right. So I think let's talk about the specifics for a second, Hark. And you know, there's a few real big principles I think that create EOS, and you probably have them all in your head, but let's start with the biggest one as far as us as founders and defining those two roles of visionary and integrator. I think those is a very novel approach.
Yeah. So one of the things with EOS that we do, or that I do when I work with the leadership team, is we develop what we call an accountability chart, not an org chart, because an org chart has duty titles and just different things and egos involved, whereas an accountability chart says who's accountable for what. And the example I'll use is, because for marketing, I don't care if you're the chief marketing officer, the senior VP of marketing, the marketing director, you call yourself whatever makes you feel good, right? What's important for the organization is what you are accountable for to the organization. So we do that accountability chart. And so we use the titles visionary and integrator as two of the functions on the accountability chart. The visionary function is about that, where is the company going, or the organization, where is it headed, what's happening in the industry. They can see those things. Their superpower is to have lots of ideas and lots of things that they think, hey, maybe we should do these things, we should check these. The integrator function is accountable for keeping the trains running on time, beating the drum, just keeping the organization moving and on track. And so the visionary and integrator work together to really drive a company forward, because the visionary will get the shiny object syndrome, right? They'll go to a conference and then hear this and go, hey, okay, we should do this. And the integrator's job is to work with the visionary on implementing those things that make sense and making sure the organization doesn't get whiplash from all these great new ideas. The visionary superpower is great ideas. The integrator's superpower is funneling those and controlling those and keeping the organization on track.
I've got two questions
Anthony.
for you,
Well, Anthony, you're 100% of an integrator, right? Like no visionary.
Well, I was going to ask. So the laugh was not very kind. The question is, have you ever found one person being able to be both?
Yes. Short answer, yes. But Chris will tell you I'm a retired colonel, so you don't get short answers. But keep going.
And then the second one, in my experience, good integrators are harder to come by.
So that is true. They say that, and I should have the statistics, but it's like for every 10 visionaries, there's like one true integrator, like really good integrator, because that's a difficult role, right? So to the first question, can those two functions, again, these are functions, not people. So let's be clear. A lot of times it's two separate people. Sometimes, especially in smaller organizations, the visionary and the integrator functions are fulfilled by the same person. Okay. And sometimes it's a person who has like a lot of visionary and they really struggle to do the integrator thing, but they have to because there's nobody else to do it, right?
Got it.
Other times it's a person who's really good at the integrator thing and they have enough of the visionary, like, okay, we can do these things, we can move the organization, they see these things, but their true calling is the integrator function. So again, they're functions, not people, and those functions have to be accomplished by somebody.
So it probably helped that I'm a little bipolar.
Personality, Anthony, it's fine. It's
okay.
Or you're ambidextrous. You can do it.
That's a much nicer way of putting it. That's great.
Yeah, I like the fact you're ambidextrous. All right, so I think one of the things that in Hark we just were saying about it is filling that role. it actually was liberating to me even before we had a formal integrator on board, that I could just say, this part of my job is the visionary job and this part of my job. And I think that's something true that you do throughout the accountability chart. Kind of explain what the accountability chart is and how, even as a founder, there might be 2 or 3 of us, but you would still probably suggest that we start to create that accountability chart.
Yeah, the accountability chart is critical. The accountability chart is the root of all good and evil in an organization, because clear accountability, clear roles, clear functions, and accountabilities is the key. So, for instance, it's not unusual, again, in smaller organizations, for the person in the visionary seat to also be in the sales seat, because that's what they do. They're really good at sales, right? They're good at working with people. Those things tend to go together. But it can be helpful to actually draw the accountability chart, have the accountability chart, and be able to say, listen, on Tuesdays from 8 to noon, I'm going to put my marketing hat on. I am in the marketing or sales role, and I'm focused on doing that, versus being in the visionary role. And what it also does is it sets you up for when you're can afford to bring in somebody, right? Because that's typically the reason somebody's in 2 roles, is they can't afford to bring in other people at this stage. You've clearly defined what are the accountabilities for that role, for that seat, so that you know who you're looking for, what skills they have. And in EOS, we talk about getting the right people in the right seats. In EOS, right people match your core values. We go through an exercise to determine your true core values, not what just goes on the coffee mug or whatever, but what are they really? And then right seats is about getting people who are genetically encoded. And to do that job, they want to do it. If they couldn't do it in your company, they'd go somewhere else to do it because they want to do that job. They get speeding tickets coming to work so they can do that job. And they have the capacity. They're fully trained, capable, experienced to be able to do that. So right people in the right seats, but you got to identify the seats first.
And I think, Anthony, one of the things that it was hard for me at first was to say, I'm doing all the things, right? I'm doing marketing, I'm doing sales, I'm doing finance, etc.
Notice he didn't say well.
Yeah, I didn't do well. Certainly not well. I was doing most of it poorly. Right? Like one thing well, but it's sometimes liberating, at least for me, to say, oh, I can now line up and show all the jobs that I'm doing, and then try to figure out which one of those that I can most easily get rid of. I know, because even in MC Squares, Anthony, like that's something that you kind of thought of, is how do you define the roles that you're sitting in? And then how do you actually delegate those?
So in any organization that you're growing, that's true. I feel like the primary leader of the organization is to be continuously working their way out of a job.
Yep. Yeah. And we work hard with the leadership team because it's hard. And again, in smaller companies as they're continuing to grow, right, you've got to make sure you have people who can truly excel in those seats for what the organization needs in the future, right? Like 6 months from now, I need a CFO. The person I have who's doing the accounting isn't the right person to be the CFO, right? Sometimes they can't make that leap. It doesn't make them a bad person. But if the organization is going to grow to where you want to get to, if they're going to fulfill that vision, you got to have the right people in the right seats in order to do that. So you can move out of them if you're the ones occupying them.
So what else? Explain EOS again. I mean, we've gotten down into the details a little bit. I think that
you got the integrator and visionary. You have this accountability chart. What's
I
next?
think those are 2 big things, right? So we start to talk about what role you have as a founder, that person that keeps the trains on time, accountability chart. What are some of the other core components?
Yeah. So we start with in the first day when I'm working with a new client, right? Is we start with getting the leadership team just aligned on a couple things, and then we hit that accountability chart, and then we set what we call rocks, which are just 90-day priorities for the organization, right? And so you've got to understand what are the organization's priorities, and then narrow them down. 3 to 7 priorities, not 37, because if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, right? And then we get them set up in a meeting pulse, recurring meeting pulse, and with a scorecard where they can have a weekly pulse on what's happening in the organization. But then we turn to a 2-page business plan, which we call the Vision Traction Organizer, or VTO. And that's where really it's about what are the core values for the organization? What's its core focus so that you don't get distracted by shiny objects? What's the the 10-year target? What's the big, hairy, audacious goal for this organization? Why does it exist? What are you trying to do? What impact are you trying to make? The marketing strategy, which is how you get to that goal. And then we bring it down to a 3-year, we start making it more real, right? More solid with a 3-year picture, and then a 1-year plan, again, with those 3 to 7 goals for the year, not 37. And then those rocks, which are again, are the 90-day priorities. So it builds, right? So you start with the 10-year, get to the 3-year, the 1-year, and then your 90-day priorities, but then they build back, right? So what do we need to do in 90 days to get to our 1-year, to get to the 3-year, to get to the 10-year?
I'm curious, Anthony, because I haven't gone through this in detail with Hark, but you have used some of these components in the past. Without having an implementer there like Hark to help you through it, what components were easy and hard for you to adopt from just reading Traction and downloading the tools from the website, et cetera?
So the fundamental thing that has stayed with me ever since I started looking at EOS was having a scorecard. I mean, that is where, for me, was where the root of all good and evil was what are the things that we're tracking on a weekly basis that boil up to the rocks, the goals, the vision. And so it wasn't just about, here's the thing about scorecard, having a scorecard that you're putting in numbers in every week and reviewing with the team every week. If you put you didn't do anything for 3 weeks in a row, it has a fundamental effect on the team and the person responsible for that cell in Excel. So either it makes you recognize who's not being accountable, and also makes the team go, oh gosh, either we're measuring something incorrectly, or we're measuring the wrong thing, or somebody's not doing their job, or they don't have the tools. So just that process of measuring that every week was the thing that caused the conversations to happen within the organization to get things going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's actually, and the scorecard, right? It flushes out issues, whether it's a person issue, an accountability issue, or it's a system issue, right? But it makes you ask those questions exactly like that. Like, why did we not make this? This was our number. Why did we not make it? Was it a bad number? Is it a bad measurable? Is it a bad? Is it an incompetent person? Or what is it? Why is the key?
Our incredible co-host, who I am just came in, shoved her to the side today so I could do this episode, my old buddy Hark. She asked a great question. So what type of organization? And also, I think it's probably a good idea to talk about the difference between kind of self-implementing, which Anthony did, I did to a certain degree in the work that you do, Hark.
Yeah, so EOS is industry agnostic. It was designed, the target market for EOS is privately held organizations with 10 to 250 employees, industry agnostic. Now, having said that, it's like anybody's target market, right? That's where you're going to spend your time and energy going after, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work for other organizations. I have 3 nonprofits that I work with to implement EOS. That's not our target market because they're not privately held, organizations. It works for organizations that are smaller than 10, and it works for organizations that are thousands, right? But the target market is 10 to 250 employees. For nonprofits, it works if they have an entrepreneurial mindset and are looking to grow. It's really the leadership team having that mindset of growth oriented, willing to be open, honest, and vulnerable with both themselves and with the other leadership team members. So I have clients anywhere from some nonprofits to a space company to a HVAC company to a construction company to, so it's industry agnostic. It's about the mindset of the leadership team.
I want to touch on one other point, and that's this idea of alignment, because I think that's one of the real powerful things about having any system, but EOS, which is really clearly it's a system that helps you communicate what are your overall vision and traction, et cetera. And then it helps you try to communicate all the way through the organization. I think that's one of those things that we're terrible about it as founders sometimes, Anthony. We think that everything has been clearly communicated because it's in our head. And Hark, I think you used to tell me, like, until you say something 3 or 4 or 5 times, you can assume that people don't hear it. 7 times. Got it. So just talk about, how does EOS think about this idea of alignment in organizations?
Yeah, so we talked about, when I work with the team, I work with the leadership team, we answer those 8 questions on the Vision Traction Organizer, the VTO. That gets the leadership team aligned. Think of that like on the front of the bus, the placard which says this is where the bus is going, right? So if you want to go here, get on. This is not an Uber. We're not going there and there and there. It's a bus. This is where this bus is going. And then we talk about, for everybody else in the organization, we have to get it shared by all. Notice it's not told to all, it's shared by all. So first thing you have to do is tell them, right? But it's more than just that. It's about them truly seeing it, sharing in that vision. And when we talk about the different components, and the people component, when you get the right people in the right seats, and we have a scorecard measurable where they know what they're accountable for doing every week, and they know that helps the organization to get to the next level, right? They're engaged because they know that what they do on a weekly basis matters, and people are looking at it. That's how you get engaged and excited employees. So all of that works together to get it shared by all. And so that's really the alignment that we're talking about.
I want one more kind of theme of questions before we get into the speed round, Hark, which is I think you've talked about EOS and implementing EOS at a particular time. If I'm starting a new company, it's brand new, it's me, and this is the podcast. It's just Anthony and I, and now Anthony, Stephanie, and I, and we're just getting going. What recommendations would you give us? Is what can we reasonably implement early that will help us avoid sort of that place where I got to, which is kind of that burnout place?
Yeah. Don't say quit. That's not the thing that we're looking for.
Well, I mean, in this podcast, he's like, well, look, I've listened, and really, this is.
How do you tell somebody they should have never started?
Yeah,
that's a different issue. So a couple things. So the book Traction, right? It's right here, right? Right. Read Traction, which is what Anthony did, right? My understanding. So read Traction, see what tools make sense for you. You can self-implement, right? There's some things. There's nothing secret. It's in the freaking book. The other thing, Gino Wickman has started what he calls the E-Leap Academy. So it's E-Leap. And it's really designed for those organizations that aren't ready for a full EOS implementation, but they want to apply some of the principles and some of those, the thoughts behind it. And so check out the E-Leap Academy. That's available online. I don't work with, that's for companies who are before where I would work with them. Since
Stephanie, she's like, no, we're actually awesome. But then the comment right before that is like, we all need crowns. Like that's, which pretty maybe
much says it all.
Yeah, pretty much says it all right there. I want to get to the speed round, Hark, but before I do, I want to ask you a question. It's a personal question because we've been buddies for so long. What do you like most about doing this job? What do you like most about implementing EOS?
So what I'm passionate about, what excites me, is seeing teams accomplish their goals. So when I was in the military, I could not keep a specialty. Most people grow up and they do their signals or their communications or their engineering or their flight line maintenance or whatever. They grow up, they do that thing throughout their career. I didn't. I bounced around. I ran command center. I did cyber. I did my deployed command was civil engineering. So I was kind of all over. But it didn't matter to me what the mission was as much as helping the team to accomplish the mission. And with being an EOS implementer, that's what I get to do. Is I don't set the goals for the leadership team. I help them identify what they're trying to do and articulate it and get them aligned on it, and then see them make progress on it. So that's why I do it, because I just love seeing the team succeed, regardless of whether it's a nonprofit or that space company or the HVAC company. It's their decision, but I get to help them do that.
Well said. Also, I have not said it nearly enough, but thank you for your service, Hark. It is awesome. You have done a ton of amazing stuff within the Air Force and elsewhere, but not in the Army. But even though that's where Anthony wanted you to serve.
Even though I see him looking, I've got the Army War College plaque behind me because I did go there, but I was Air Force.
But it was Air Force. All right, Hark, are you ready for the speed round? Top of mind, just say whatever comes into your head just as we go through this quickly. Who's smarter, Anthony or I?
Anthony.
Come on, man. That's just hurts.
Actually, Stephanie
for not being here. Yes, that's exactly right.
That is the correct answer always. Weekly meetings or monthly reviews, Hark?
Oh, weekly meetings, monthly reviews. It's too late.
Vision statements or core values? What's more important?
Your core values.
Spending time in meetings or spending time doing things? Which would you prioritize?
Doing. In EOS, our meetings are designed to minimize the time spent in them and maximize the impact.
That's why I was always bad at that, is because you cut down my bullshit time like 90%.
Squirrels.
Exactly. We actually had a stuffed squirrel that people would throw at me after a while, and it got painful.
That's true.
Yeah, that's very true. Top-down goals or bottom-up input, Hark?
Both, but you got to have a goals. You have to know where you're going, and then get the input.
Team autonomy or strict protocols?
Autonomy.
Coolest
Give them
thing
the right
you ever
parameters. What?
Coolest thing you ever did in the Air Force?
Get shot at.
Oh,
I really wouldn't call that cool, personally, Anthony. It's just not something
or
that I
rocket
think
attack.
is.
It's the
When you were deployed, do you want to say where you were deployed?
Kirkuk, Iraq. Yeah.
That was actually a thing, Anthony. I don't think you and I have been shot at.
Setting up the Air Force Cyber Innovation Center at the Air Force Academy. How's that?
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Anthony, what did you learn today? I mean, Hark spoke in short sentences, so we'd be able to understand it. We appreciate it, Hark. Thank you.
I wasn't really paying attention, so I'll do my best here to wrap it up.
He spent the whole time looking at the plaque.
That's right.
So I wrote down every business has an operating system. Even if it's formally, but formalizing your operating system helps companies move beyond, basically move beyond what's in the founder's head and gut. I wrote, Hark said accountability chart is the root of all good and evil. And then I just kind of wrote down the big blocks, set 10-year goals, 3 year, then 1 year plan, then 3 to 7 priorities, and then boil those down to 90-day tactics, or what EOS calls rocks. And then the I just wrote down the thing that fundamentally changed how I viewed an organization. That's that weekly scorecard. That's the one thing that I took out that really changed the game for me.
Cool.
Deep dive resources. Of course, we've said it, but now you can hold it up. Hark, Traction by Gino Wickman. Get a grip on your business. It's a terrific book. Really kind of a must read for every entrepreneur. Scaling Up, How Few Companies Make It and Why the Rest Don't. The Advantage, Why Organizational Health Trumps Everything Else in Business. Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman, the one essential combination that'll get you more of what you want from your business. And Hark, on the EOS website, you can download all these tools for free, right? Like pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to the website.
But we don't want to go there, Hark. We want to talk to you. We want you to tell us how to do this stuff. Where can we find more information about you? Where can we connect? And where can we hire you to implement for this podcast? Because God, we need it desperately. Just so desperate.
Yeah, so if you go to harkeos.com, that'll get you to my website. On there, there's resources, there's links to get the download the tools that we mentioned here briefly. You can go through more. Reach out. Anybody reach out. We'll have a conversation. Whether you're ready to look at hiring an implementer, or you simply want to self-implement, or you just want to learn more, give me a shout.
And you have been incredibly kind to startups and early stage companies, but also on the off chance that one of your target market happens to run across this particular podcast. Typically, who are the people that you really like to serve the most?
Typically, the initial is either the integrator or the visionary, which is typically the founder or the CEO or the COO. Is who I typically work with, but I work with the leadership team. It doesn't matter. If you happen to know a military veteran, military spouse-owned business, I have a special place for them since I've been working with them for about a decade now. But it's really anybody who's got that growth mindset and wants to make their company bigger, more better.
Awesome. Hark, thank you, buddy. It is great to see you. We'll have beers again sometime soon. Again,
it was great.
Service.
Yeah, it was great. It was same here, Hark. It's always good to see your face. For some reason, whenever I see you, it puts a smile on my face, and not in a creepy way. So,
also, he's not wearing a cowboy hat. I know you're
that's
inside.
It's a little
Is
off-putting.
it within reach right now? That's kind of strange. It's kind of strange.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify channels. Also, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you enjoyed the episode. Remember, we believe we do this because we think you are the pioneer of economic prosperity as a founder. And we're just so grateful to be here along the way with you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.